The courtroom was silent. Cameras flashed, the gavel struck, and the sound echoed like thunder. Ryder's face turned pale. Bryson shouted as the cuffs tightened around his wrists. Their empire of lies collapsed in front of everyone. I stood still, watching, not shaking, not smiling, just knowing justice had finally landed. My name is Natalie Cross. I am 58 years old, a physician in Philadelphia. I've spent decades saving lives, holding fragile hearts steady, fighting death itself. Yet betrayal is a wound no medicine can heal. I once believed my family was my anchor, but the people I trusted most, my husband Ryder and my stepbrother Bryson, used that trust to destroy me. Ryder, to the world, was polished and kind, a man who shook hands with ease, who seemed reliable. Bryson, quick with numbers, ambitious, always flashing that disarming smile. Together they stood at my side, laughed with me at family dinners, raised their glasses on holidays, but behind the warmth of those moments, their blades were already drawn. I found the first cut in the quiet of my father's old desk. Sorting through estate papers, I realized something was missing. There were supposed to be 4 properties. One was gone. The land in Bucks County my father had told me to protect. I searched until my fingers trembled, and then I saw it. My signature. Clean. Perfect. But not mine. A forgery. That night I placed the paper in front of Ryder. "What is this? Did you sign my name?" He didn't even blink. His voice was calm. Too calm. "Nat, it's routine. Just a tax adjustment. I told you already." "No. You didn't. This is my father's land." He laid his hand on mine. Once warm, now cold. "Trust me. Let me handle it." His words were soft. His eyes were not. For the first time, I saw the shadow behind them. 2 days later, Bryson arrived with wine, grinning as if life had only blessed him. "You've carried too much, Natalie." "Ryder and I just want to help. Isn't that what family does?" Family. The word turned bitter on my tongue. My father's legacy was being rewritten by their greed, carved away behind closed doors. I couldn't sleep. Their voices circled in my head. "Trust me, family. Let us take care of it." A lullaby of lies. I went to the county office myself. The clerk handed me files, routine to him, but inside them my heart broke. More transfers. More signatures that weren't mine. My inheritance, stolen piece by piece, neatly packaged as if I had agreed. I walked out with the papers pressed to my chest. Around me the city roared, but inside there was only silence. In that silence I heard my father again. "Protect what is yours." At my kitchen table I spread the files out. Ryder's calm lies. Bryson's false smile. My father's name reduced to ink. I whispered into the still air. "You thought I wouldn't notice. You thought I'd stay blind. But you've underestimated me." And that night, the thought of revenge no longer frightened me. It steadied me. Because this was not just about land or money. It was about honor, about blood, about me. And I would not let them win. They struck fast. And they struck hard. One morning I walked into the hospital where I had worked for decades. Instead of the usual greetings, I was met with silence. Colleagues averted their eyes. Whispers followed me down the hallway. By noon, I was called into a closed-door meeting with the board. Papers were stacked in front of me. Allegations, false statements, numbers twisted into poison. They said funds had been misused, that signatures and approvals pointed back to me. I sat still, my hands folded in my lap, while their words sliced through the air. Fraud, mismanagement, theft. Words I had fought against my whole career. Words that never once belonged to me. Yet here they were, written neatly in black ink, stamped, sealed. When I asked where the accusations came from, they said there were witnesses. Witnesses who claimed they had seen me shift hospital funds for personal use. Witnesses I knew what that meant. Bryson's hand was in it. Writers, too. They had built their own script, found willing mouths to play their parts, and just like that, the board suspended me. The place where I had saved lives no longer wanted me in their halls. When I left that building, the winter air hit me like glass. My phone buzzed with messages I didn't want to read, some from friends, hesitant, confused, others from relatives, cruel, sharp. Rumors had already spread. I was the greedy one, the ungrateful daughter, the selfish doctor who had betrayed her oath. At Sunday dinner, my own cousins refused to meet my eyes. One of them finally muttered, "Natalie, how could you do this to your father's name?" I felt the heat rise in my chest, but I said nothing, because no defense, no denial would matter while Ryder and Bryson held the strings. For days I wandered through my house like a ghost, clutching papers, searching for something that could prove the truth. But every trail led back to their careful work. They had sealed the cracks, built their lies with precision, and then, when the darkness pressed too close, I made a choice. I called an old friend, a private investigator I had once helped during a difficult case. He owed me nothing, but he listened, and in his quiet tone, I heard the first spark of hope. He dug where I could not. He followed Bryson through late-night streets. He traced Ryder's financial footprints across oceans, and soon the truth began to unfold. Bryson, always smiling, always polished, had another life. A younger woman hidden away in a downtown apartment, expensive jewelry, lavish trips, all paid in cash. Money funneled from the very estate that was supposed to honor my father's legacy. And Ryder, my husband, had been busy offshore. A secret account in the Cayman Islands, numbers too large to ignore, transfers that tied back to forged documents, to stolen inheritance, to the empire they were building without me. The investigator slid the files across my table one evening. Photographs, receipts, statements. I stared at them until the words blurred, and then I laughed, a sound sharp and bitter, because in those papers I saw what they had hidden, and I saw their weakness. That night I poured a glass of wine. I sat in the silence of my kitchen. The city hummed outside, but inside it was only me and the weight of revelation. I whispered it aloud, steady, certain. They want to bury me. Then I will turn the grave they've dug into their own. The words steadied me like steel, because now, for the first time, I was no longer reacting to their lies. I was preparing. I folded the photographs neatly, placed the documents in order, closed the folder with care. My pulse slowed. My breath steadied. The woman they thought they could destroy was still here, and now I was ready to fight. They thought their lies had buried me, but they had only awakened something they could never control. The first strike had to be personal. Bryson always paraded himself as the loyal husband, the proud father, the one who preached about family at every gathering. He wore devotion like armor, but I had seen through the cracks. My investigators' photographs told the story he tried so hard to hide. I remember staring at those images in the quiet of my kitchen. Bryson slipping into a downtown apartment well past midnight. A young woman opening the door, smiling as he kissed her in the hall. Jewelry boxes left open on a dresser. Airline receipts for weekends away, funded by money that was never his to spend. My father's money. My inheritance. I placed the photographs in an envelope. My fingers shook, not from fear, but from a strange calm. No letter, no explanation, just the truth. By morning, his family was gone. His wife left with their children, vanishing into silence. Neighbors watched as he stumbled outside, trying to explain. At work, his colleagues avoided him, their conversations ending the moment he walked into the room. His mask of respectability cracked, then crumbled. While Bryson's home collapsed, my eyes turned to Ryder. He had built his reputation on charity, on smiling for cameras, speaking at galas, shaking hands as though generosity flowed naturally from him. He loved being called a man of compassion, but the papers in my hand revealed the rot beneath. Funds meant for sick children, for struggling families. Redirected into hidden accounts, false reports written to cover the trail. Every dollar stolen was another stain on his name. I chose carefully. A journalist who thrived on truth, a woman who lived to dismantle men who built empires on deception. I slipped the files into her hands, anonymous, and waited. It didn't take long. The headlines screamed across the city. Fraud in the name of charity. Where did the money go? Ryder's face, once smiling on glossy magazine pages, now filled the news as a symbol of betrayal. His phone rang endlessly with reporters demanding answers. His allies backed away. Invitations to events vanished. One night I watched him pace in the living room, his collar damp with sweat, his jaw clenched tight. "They're lies," he muttered, gripping the phone. "All of them." But I saw it in his eyes. Fear. The cracks spreading through the man who once thought himself untouchable. And then came the final strike, the one that would cut the deepest, the Cayman account. Millions transferred offshore. Neat lines of numbers, too large to ignore. Each one a thread connecting his greed to my father's stolen legacy. I gathered the files, bank statements, receipts, signatures. I sealed them in an envelope and mailed it to the IRS. No signature, no return address. Just the truth, packaged and sent to the very hands that would tear him apart. From that day forward, Ryder was no longer himself. He prowled the house at night, muttering to no one, pulling at his collar as if it choked him. His once steady hands trembled. His smile was gone. Every shadow looked like judgment. Every phone call felt like the end. And Bryson, he drowned in whiskey. His hands shook when he poured another glass. His voice cracked when he spoke. His eyes were hollow, ringed with sleepless nights. He no longer looked like the ambitious man who once dared to sneer at me. He was unraveling, thread by thread. I watched them both decay under the weight of their own sins. Two men who had stripped me of my father's legacy, who believed I would bow and remain silent. Now they trembled, haunted by the truth I had set free. Every betrayal leaves a scar. Mine burned deep. But with every strike, I was carving justice back into my life, and in the stillness of my empty home, I whispered to the dark, "They wanted to bury me. Then I will turn the grave they dug into their own. And this is only the beginning." Yeah. The night before the storm, I sat alone with my father's photograph on the table. His eyes, captured in that fading frame, seemed to remind me why I could not stop now. I had cut deep into Bryson and Ryder's lives already, but this was the final blow. The truth that would end them. Through weeks of patient work, with help from my investigator, I slipped into the shadows of their world. Hidden drives, carelessly stored emails, drafts of contracts they thought erased. And there it was, my father's signature, forged with surgical precision, copied onto documents that transferred his land and wealth into their hands. The proof I had been waiting for. The scalpel that would slice their empire wide open. I looked at the screen, at the falsified signature that mocked my family name, and whispered, "This ends now." The day of the shareholders' meeting arrived. A crowded hall, polished shoes, expensive suits, the heavy perfume of wealth, cameras flashing, reporters leaning forward, ready for sound bites. Ryder and Bryson walked in with forced confidence, their smiles stretched too tight, their eyes flicking nervously toward me. When my turn came, I stepped into the center of the room. I felt their eyes on me, their irritation, their dismissal. Then the screen lit up. The documents I had uncovered appeared one by one. My father's signature, repeated across fraudulent contracts. Emails linking Ryder to offshore transfers. Messages between Bryson and lawyers about keeping me quiet and compliant. The room erupted. Investors shouted. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras clicked like gunfire. "This is fraud," I said, my voice calm, steady. "This company was built on theft, on betrayal. And these men," I pointed at Ryder and Bryson, "are the ones who orchestrated it." Bryson's smirk vanished. He leapt to his feet. "She's lying!" "This is a setup." But the evidence glowed above us, undeniable. Ryder's face drained of color. Voices turned against him. Investors demanded answers. The board shouted over each other. Cameras captured every second. By nightfall, the news spread across the city. The company's stock plummeted. Phones buzzed with panic. And for the first time, Ryder and Bryson turned on each other. I heard later they fought in front of staff. Bryson accusing Ryder of being careless. Ryder spitting back that Bryson was weak, sloppy, a liability. Their alliance fractured into screams. But Ryder wasn't finished. That night, he came to my house. His knock was violent. The door shook on its hinges. When I opened it, his face was red with fury. Sweat glistened at his temples. "You ruined me," he growled. "Do you know what you've done?" "You'll regret this, Natalie. I'll make sure of it." I stood calm. The recorder was already hidden, running on the table behind me. I let him rant. His threats filled the air. He slammed his fist against the wall. "You think you've won?" he shouted. "I built this. I buried you once. I'll do it again." Then came the sound I had been waiting for. Sirens. Flashing lights filled the windows. Ryder froze. The door burst open. "Ryder Cross, You are under arrest." He staggered back. Agents in dark jackets swarmed in. The cuffs clicked shut. The same sound I had imagined from the beginning. I stood still, hands folded, watching. And in that silence, I knew the storm was over. The empire of lies had fallen, and justice, at last, was mine. The morning was sharp and cold. The courthouse steps were already crowded. Reporters pressed forward, their microphones raised like weapons. The air exploded with flashes, each burst capturing shame. Ryder came first. His once perfect suit hung wrinkled, his jaw clenched, his eyes empty. Beside him, Bryson stumbled. He tried to cover his face, but the cuffs forced his hands down. Cameras caught every detail. The world saw them for what they truly were. Not visionaries, not leaders, but thieves, frauds, men stripped bare in front of everyone. Questions flew from every side. Did you forge the contracts? Where did the charity money go? Do you feel remorse? Neither answered. Their silence was louder than any confession. They had no power left, no story left to tell, and I stood nearby, just far enough to watch. Not hidden in the shadows, not trembling. I stood with my back straight, my chin lifted. For the first time in years, I felt taller than both of them. I thought of the nights they had whispered behind my back, the dinners where they smiled at me while plotting my downfall, the cruel laughter I had overheard when they believed they had won. All of it had led to this moment. All of it had collapsed into chains. The courts began their work. Investigations spread like fire through every account, every ledger, every hidden vault. Investors demanded repayment. Allies pulled their names from contracts. The empire they had built on betrayal dissolved in a matter of weeks. And me? I was no longer the outcast. The hospital board called me back, their faces flushed with guilt. They reinstated my position. Some offered apologies. Others avoided my eyes, too ashamed to face what they had believed. Letters arrived. Old friends who had once doubted me now begged forgiveness. Neighbors who had whispered accusations now sent flowers. It was almost strange to feel the same people who had turned away come running back. But I did not gloat. I had no need. Their regret was its own punishment. What mattered was this. My father's estate was returned. The deeds were mine again. The land he had entrusted to me, the promise he had whispered years ago, finally safe. I drove out to Bucks County one afternoon. The air smelled of earth and pine. The land stretched wide, quiet, untouched. I walked slowly, pressing my palm against the soil. I whispered, "It's safe now, Father. They cannot take it from us again." But my journey was not complete until I stood at his grave. The sun was sinking, casting long shadows across the stone. I placed my hand gently against the cool marble. The name carved there carried the weight of everything I had fought for. For a long while, I simply stood. The silence wrapped around me, and then my voice broke it. "Father, I kept it. I protected what was yours. Your legacy is safe. Your name will not be dragged through their lies." The wind stirred through the trees as if answering me. I closed my eyes, breathing in the stillness, and in that moment, I felt something I had not felt in years. Peace, not triumph, not rage, just peace. I turned from the grave, my heart lighter. But before I left, I spoke the words that had carried me through. Revenge isn't rage. It's precision. They buried me in betrayal. But I grew back stronger. Justice, though late, always comes for those who dare to fight. And then I walked away, not broken, not bitter, but whole again, and ready to live.